Hey, so I want to check in on Berkshire. So ticker symbols on the screen. The one that I'm following, it's BRK-B. There's also an A, uh, but the B version's cheaper. But it's the same company, just different valuations for each stock. Uh, I did come across some news articles. The last time we touched base on Berkshire was June 7th, so a little over a month ago, about a month and 10 days. So let's look at the news, what's been going on since then, and then we'll pivot into the technical analysis, uh, just what's changed there, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's just start with the news. Let me change slides here. So a couple things. Nothing major. I would say there was I guess one thing that we'll see, but for a company this size, maybe it's not even that large. But yeah, so just to start off with, so a minor ding to the record here. So back in 2020, there was these Oregon wildfires, and Berkshire owns this company, Pacific Corp. And so just to continue along with the article, basically what happened is Pacific Corp is this electric utility company which is owned by Berkshire, and they were found guilty or um, they must pay punitive damages for four of the wildfires that devastated the state in 2020. This could result in Pacific Corp being on the hook for billions of dollars of damages to approximately 5,000 plaintiffs. Again, that's worst case scenario. I I guess we'll just keep tracking that, see how that develops, what ends up being the total cost. Of course, we're factoring in Pacific Corp is I'm not even sure how much is owned by Berkshire, whether it's majority, whether it's 100%. Uh, so either way, we're aware that that's going to affect this component of Berkshire. Will it actually affect Berkshire as a whole? Probably not. Couple $1 billion. Uh, Again, nothing to scoff at, but that doesn't seem like it's going to impact on that much. And I imagine it's going to be less than that. But again, we'll follow it, see how that plays out. Next, we have uh, Buffett donated $4.6 billion to the Gates Foundation. This is an annual thing that he does, not necessarily to that donation, to that fund, but annually he does these philanthropic donations, and here we have he's given away 4.6 billion in Berkshire shares to five organizations. So that's a lot of that's a lot. But again, to a company this size, I guess it's not that much. But again, this is just taking his shares, putting it, donating it. So no one's sold anything. It's just, but I have to imagine, like I know a lot of charity foundations, they're required to sell. Uh, I'm curious how that impacts the stock market. This was back about a month ago. So we'll see if there was a dip closer to like the second week of June. Uh, that's the only thing that I could see impacting the stock price for that. But overall, it sounds like, just a good guy doing good things. Next, we have they boosted their Occidental stake to more than 25% of the oil producer. Um, I I know we touched on this. I'm not sure if that's been raised even higher. I guess it must have. I do, for some reason, like 21%, 23% is coming to mind. And so I don't know if it's just naturally built up to 25%. They purchase more. So if you have more insight on that, feel free to share. That would be doing me a favor. Otherwise, yeah, that is the update. I think it was like low 20s. Now it's 25%. Not sure if they're going to continue buying more, but they have been buying more. Down here at the bottom, we have this BNSF Railway. They won a new trial for $228 million in this biometric database data case. So again, this is another subsidiary of Berkshire owning this railway. Apparently, they were originally ordered to pay $228 million to, it looks like, truck drivers who accused the freight railway giant of unlawfully collecting their fingerprints. It looks like that was overturned. I don't know if the trial is going to continue. Of course, we'll see. Overall, this is a very small figure. Maybe it would impact that railway company, I'm sure. But again, in terms of Berkshire as a whole, this isn't really going to do anything. But again, it made the news. Uh, so just pitching it out there. Uh, but overall, it seems like they thought they were going to give it away. Now they don't need to. We'll see how it plays out. Moving on, this is probably the biggest deal. This is the biggest news that they did. So they took control of this LNG plant, and if we look at the second, or no, it mentions it in both. So the first and second article are touching on the same thing. But the first one, so they take control of this LNG plant for $3.3 billion. LNG is liquefied natural gas. It looks like they agreed to buy Dominion Energy's stake in this Maryland LNG export project for $3.3 billion. Going to the second article, Berkshire has a big utility and energy division. They purchased a 50% stake in the Cove Point LNG facility in Maryland for $3.3 billion, lifting its stake in the plant to 75%. And if we dig into, I believe, the Bloomberg article on top, it goes into, I guess there's something like 6 of these LNG plants in the United States, and this raises them to having a majority stake in one of those 6 plants that's, I believe, able to export LNG. So that kind of seems like a good position. I mean, they're going to be one of only 6. I mean, sounds like a good purchase to me. But, we'll see how this plays out over time, how that $3.3 billion investment, what is that going to equate to over the course of the rest of the year going forward? How quick will they get that investment back? We'll, of course, keep an eye out for it. And this last piece, this NJASAP, is to host an informational picket on July 14th, so that actually already occurred just recently, though. So I guess this NJASAP, that is like an airline type company. So again, another type of business that's under the Berkshire umbrella. I guess a bunch of airline pilots were they're negotiating a better salary for their pilots, and I'm sure there's other small complaints, but in total they have some complaints, and this was an informational picket. So again, another thing of kind of troublesome on that very minor scale, but again, looking at the whole picture, this is very small in terms of the whole kind of ecosystem Berkshire has. But again, just something to mention. If it pops up again, we'll bring it up and see if there's any developments. So let's pivot into the technical analysis now and see what needs to be updated, if anything. So again, last time we looked at this was June 7th. We thought it was a fair value price. That's why it's in blue. It was trading at that time for $333. We had buy points marked at 305 and 321. I want to pick out one number so that I know for sure what I'm going to be looking for. We also had resistance points of 339, which is very close to that 333, and then also 352. I'm going to find an ultimate resistance point that I'm going to be focusing on between now and the next time we touch base, just to see where it gauges on that type of level. And then the note we left for ourselves was it's in an uptrend for the past 8 months, starting in October of 2022, so just last year. So we'll look at the technical and see what's been going on. So we're zoomed out pretty far because I looked at this beforehand. And I just want to point out and add this to our tracker here, that this uptrend, there's been 3 uptrends here. So hopefully we can see these lighter purple trends. This thing has been in an uptrend almost pretty much since the day it began. Originally it had this very narrow light purple uptrend here that I'm kind of dancing the mouse around, if we can see, since the very beginning, from 1996 all the way to about 2008, there was an uptrend. Very minor, but it was there. And so right there, I just want to add that in a minor uptrend since 2016, or I'm sorry, 1996 till, what was it, 2008? So a 12-year uptrend there. Then there was a accelerated uptrend from 2008 to 2020. Okay? And so that is the little bit wider but light purple uptrend. I'll zoom in a little bit. So we have this section right here. All of a sudden, right in 2008, right in 2008, all of a sudden it seemed to accelerate. It was definitely still within the original uptrend. So I guess I could actually tweak that a little bit. But 2008, I feel like that's like when it first could have technically been established, because based on the high and where the low seemed to be. So I'm just going to run with that for now. Again, we probably could say 2012, 2013, but we're going to stick to the story how I first saw it. So from 2008 and then all the way up to about 2020. So another 12-year period. So from 2008 to 2020, it was riding along this slightly accelerated purple uptrend. And again, I'll zoom in a little bit more. So right here, this accelerated uptrend. And then right in 2020, there was another big kind of dip there. But then it kind of got back on track. Again, still, we could say the light purple uptrend was still technically in effect until, 2020, just the later half of 2020. But I can also argue that it started to accelerate even higher. And so that's where the dark purple uptrend comes in. So from 2020, and it really kind of even outpaced that for a little while before ultimately pulling back into the current range that we're in today. So from 2020 till today, yes, we have periods where it's outpaced it, a couple dips below, but for the most part, I would say about 50 to 60% of the time from 2020 till about early 21, and then from mid 22 till today, we've really just been in that uptrend. So what I'm going to do is add in accelerated uptrend from 2020. I'll say March of 2020. Accelerated trend from March 2020 through today. Accelerated uptrend started. Okay, so we'll just change that to started. Okay, in March 2020. And then I'm going to zoom in again. So I then added in this yellow uptrend line, because the reason why is because it was far outpacing the purple uptrend, and then it crashed. It crashed, right? And that's when we set up our horizontal lines we have 364 in black all the way up, or I'm sorry, 264 in black up to 361. And we noticed some sideways consolidation. I think that was ultimately to get it back into the acceptable range, which is our dark purple uptrends. That seems to be the new uptrend for this. But again, I saw how it crashed down to that low point at 264. And then to me, it gave the impression that it potentially could be starting a new uptrend. I guess we'll find out very soon what's actually going to stick. So we have the competing uptrends of the dark purple, which that's been going on since, like I said, 2020. Yes, it was over accelerating here, but because it was on the upper half, I wouldn't say it broke it. And there really, it didn't go, it just, it's not explosive enough, or like it never seemed to pick up a new trend. There were smaller trends within it that maybe I would have picked up on, such as if if we were back in 21 and I saw it started to kind of bounce at 274, yeah, I might have called that out, but we weren't looking at it then. We're looking at it now, and so that's why it's kind of, I'm just playing it as best I can right now. And so that's kind of why we marked this yellow uptrend here, which is still in effect. It seems to be hanging out at the bottom. I think very soon, over the next, probably, worst case would be probably November is when we'll get a ultimate decision. I think we're going to find out sooner rather than later if it's going to continue with the yellow uptrend or the purple, because um, we're at a deciding factor, because we're at the very top of the purple uptrend, which would be kind of a resistance point for us. But in terms of the yellow, uh, we're actually on the lower half. So we're going to see kind of which plays out. Um, but we'll dissect it a little bit more as we look deeper into this. So now we're kind of caught up. So going back to June 7th. June 7th was the last time we looked at this. And so that's this candle right here. So I'll zoom in a little bit more. We got right here. It was trading at 333. That's roughly in the middle, which makes sense because that was probably midweek. Since then, kind of flat, but a nice gradual incline up to where it is today at 344. So I'll just update that. We had buy points marked at 305, which again, that's back here, 305. That is the bottom of the purple uptrend. And we also had 321, which happens to be the bottom of the yellow uptrend. We did not see it come close to either of those points. So with a month past, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to project it out a little bit further. So normally what I do is, here we are in the current week. So my buy points for the week would be 330 and 308. So you can see it's gradually gone up over time, which with an uptrend, that's kind of how it goes. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip out a couple weeks to roughly when I think we'll touch base on this company again. So right around mid-August. Mid-August, my buy points would be, if that purple uptrend is the one, the dominant one, I have 313. I would look to add it there. So I'm going to update our 305 figure to 313. And then 321 is going to scale up with the yellow, which mid-August would be about 337. So I'm going to change 321 to 337. And for me, I'm personally going to be on the conservative side for this one and say I'm going to wait for 313 at this point. If it pulled into like 320, yeah, I'd probably go for that. But 313 is like, that's kind of where I'm looking for this one. So I'm making that the bold figure. And again, the next time we look at this, I might switch over. If yellow seems to be the more dominant trend, I will switch over, and 337 will be the dominant position. In terms of resistance, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to project out. So to mid-August, in terms of the purple uptrend, we're looking at about 348. So we're going to update 339 to 348. And we're going to do the same thing for that yellow uptrend if I can do it. It looks like I can. right about here. So about 370. We would, if it got to 370, that would be new highs. We will see. That would be pretty wild. So for this one, again, sticking to the conservative side, that which is the purple uptrend, the figure I'm looking at is 348. Because of that, that is the figure I'm looking at. And so me personally, I'm saying this one, I'm staying away from it. But because there's two trends coinciding, and I'm not sure which is going to be the ultimate winner, I believe it's going to be the purple. So, but because there are two options, they're both kind of longer term. Yeah, I guess I would say I'll leave it at blue for now because it's right in the middle. Um, it's within both. That's the thing. It's within both, and hopefully we get a confirmed answer in like a month or two. But otherwise, that pretty much wraps this up. I'm gonna add in my notes to buy dips because that's not there. And this will, of course, kind of evolve as we continue following it. I guess one last thing that I could do for this is I try to just guess to see where I think this one is going to fall. So for this one, if I had to guess where it's going to be at the end of the third quarter, my guess is it's going to be around here. So I'm going to make that gray for us. So that's my guess. So this one doesn't seem like it's going to be getting any short-term gains in the near future, but that's okay. This would be a long-term play that's going to hopefully steadily grow over time. So that's okay. But that's where I'm guessing it's going to be, somewhere in this range between 340, 360, and we might update that next video too, just to fine-tune it. But that's all we got. So just a quick recap. We have Berkshire here. I'm still going to give it that blue color for fair value, only because we're right in between two trends are actively happening at the same time. Ultimately, I'm going to lean more to the conservative side, which is purple, and that's why we've boldened our buy point at 313. That was the bottom of that purple uptrend, and 348, which is the top of that purple uptrend. The purple uptrend within our notes, that uptrend is what we noticed started in March of 2020. That's still active till today. And then we also saw this yellow uptrend that's more recent. It started in October of 2022. So that is still going on. We can change that to 9 months now. And that would be the buy point of 337. That'd be the bottom of that uptrend. And the resistance would be at 370 for that one. Again, I'm going to stick with the longer active uptrend, the one that started in March of 2020. I'm assuming that is the dominant uptrend. Again, only because it's been around longer. And so my buy point is that 313, which has been emboldened, and 348. It's very close to the 348. So I'm leaning towards this is like, I'm not interested in this one because it's close to that resistance point. But yeah, if the yellow turns out to be the dominant, I could definitely flip this one a little bit. But overall, I think we'll leave it as a blue fair value. And the only other note that we left ourselves was we made note of that uptrend from 96 to 2008. And then we also an accelerated uptrend from 2008 to 2020. And now here we are in a new accelerated uptrend from 2020 till today. And then, of course, a slight uptrend that we noticed for the past 9 months from October. Hopefully that doesn't get too complicated. I'll try to simplify it for us. But ultimately, we like this one because of these uptrends. So anytime it dips, we do want to add it. It's just, where is the dip point? Right now, it's probably between 313, 337. So it's it's close to that, and that's why it gets the fair value. I think, again, I'm waiting for it to dip. If it dipped to like 320, that's like an acceptable spot for me to get in on this one. Uh, but let me know your buy points, what you think, how you're seeing it from your side, from your angle. Um, if you want to add anything like that, or if you think I missed something in the news and want to just chime in, please do that. I'd be happy to read it. Or if you have any questions, feel free to do so. I'll do my best to answer that. But yeah, that wraps this up. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.